Following the completion of the presidential preference primaries and state caucuses, it's on to the national conventions. Let's discuss what are the roles of the two national conventions and how do they affect the selection process for the next president. All right, Terry, you've been to several national conventions, so what is the role of the convention, or what was it and how is it today?
Well, and it's interesting because the role is the same. It's to select the nominee for president, vice president, to adopt a platform, and to set the rules for the next election. And none of that has changed, but really it's that so many of these decisions are made in advance before the convention starts that it really becomes a fundraising vehicle and an opportunity for candidates to meet potential consultants, media experts to help them win the campaign.
But also there's the vice president is announced at these, and how's that process changed?
Well, it used to be in the old days that the party activists would select who the vice president was going to be, the candidate for vice president was going to be. And now it's really the presidential candidate who decides, because since we know the candidate before the convention starts, the presidential candidate will often think about, well, what will help me win this election? What are my weaknesses? What are my strengths? And that impacts the selection process of vice president. So it's actually less predictable than it used to be.
But we all grew up glued to our TV night after night, hours after hours for suspense. How's that all changed, and how's the media treating it now?
Yeah, well, today it is more like a staged production. And so each national party, as Terry said, of course, it is one way to raise money, but in another way, it's also a way to introduce their candidate to the voter and to try to hone the message that they want the voter to really get from their party. So Republicans might say, okay, you know, we're going to cut your taxes, and Democrats might say, you know, well, we're going to do more for the middle class or whatever. But it's a staged production. They try to assign speakers that they think will be the most exciting and the best speakers to be in prime time when TV is actually showing it. It doesn't always work out that way, but you know, sometimes they do have some surprises, like Clint Eastwood coming out and talking to an empty chair last time around or something like that. But yeah, really, as Terry said, the main goals of the conventions are the same, but there certainly are some differences from the way they used to operate.
There's much less deliberation. There are so many fewer decisions to make that it's a matter of just ratifying a decision that's been made before the convention actually begins.
So we know that the results of these presidential preference primary elections determine how the delegates are selected. So talk real briefly of how delegates are selected and who gets to go to these conventions and sit on the floor.
Well, it depends on the party, but really delegates are going to be your party activists and your office holders representing that party. So people from the state legislature, from Congress, as well as party activists are going to be those folks that are going to be there to formally ratify the decision of the party. And how many delegates are assigned to each candidate or to each party is really tied to a set of rules, tied to not only what the state's population is, but the number of members of that party, as well as how well that state did in the previous presidential election. So there's that activism really pays off.
All right, so how many conventions have you been to, Aubrey?
I have to say, I have never been to a convention in person like
And I've
my
been to
colleague
6.
Terry.
Okay, 6.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, she's going to have to yield some time to you.
Yeah, I just mostly watch them on TV like most of the other folks. Although actually, the convention coverage has actually been shrunken as well.
Absolutely. It used to be all day, like you were saying, and now it's maybe 9 o'clock at night till 10:30 or 11 o'clock. They might start at 10 o'clock with the better speeches.
So what's your best memory of the conference or going to a convention?
My best memory of going to convention, I think, was really just sort of seeing people live, like that they're real people. You see all these celebrities and having my picture taken with people who I may or may not agree with, but they were famous at the time, and I never was famous, so it was always nice to have my picture taken with people. But my best memory was seeing Rosa Parks being driven in a white stretch limousine to come to a party in Atlanta, Georgia in 1988. And she was sitting in the back of the limousine, but was for a very different reason than how we best know Rosa Parks.
All right, so as we look ahead for 2016, the Republican Party convention will be July 18th through the 21st in Cleveland, Ohio. And here in Florida, they'll be selecting their delegates through a caucus in April. And the Democratic Party will be having their national convention July 25th through the 28th in Philadelphia, PA, and they'll be selecting their delegates on May the 7th. I appreciate your insight on the National Convention. Hopefully you'll get to go one day. Again, thanks to both of you for let's talking about the National Conventions, and we'll be right back.